Phil Jackson is the greatest basketball coach of all time. He won 11 NBA titles, 6 with the Chicago Bulls and 5 with the LA Lakers. I find Phil Jackson to be very inspirational, not just because of what he accomplished at such a high level, but the way he went about it. He infused his style and his own philosophy and beliefs into the sport. And what you see is that he challenged the status quo, and he won over and over and over again. And I really admire that fearlessness to be who you are and coach how you are, and you can win. Phil Jackson wrote Sacred Hoops in 1995. I've read all of his books, but this is the one where you should start because he really goes in depth with his leadership and coaching philosophy. He even goes into his background as a Zen Christian and the influence of the Lakota Native American tribe on him growing up in Montana. His goal was to bring spirituality to the hardwood, egoless basketball. And so he wanted the players on the court to have a sense of oneness, and he would employ the triangle offense to do this. And so the triangle offense, there should always be 2 open passes at the same time. So what you would want to do is get the defense to overplay themselves, to use their aggression against them and have them off balance. The NBA in the 1990s was about power, machoism, overpowering your opponent. Phil Jackson challenged that. He introduced meditation and mindfulness, and he really emphasized the importance of awareness and calmness. Each season is a journey that they get to participate in. He was notorious for not calling timeouts during games. Like when things are going bad, the players would look at him at the bench and he'd be like, "What do you want me to do? You guys got to figure this out." Because he really wanted his team to have a sense of oneness, to be thinking on the same level to solve these problems. He would also, during timeouts, instead of going over the plays, the X's and O's, in practice, he would have guys practice visualizing a safe, peaceful place in their lives, whether it be from childhood or whenever, that they could go to and find relief and peace. So during timeouts, you'd have them all go there. Let's just go to our safe places. And then coming out of the timeouts, they'd be a lot more focused and ready to go. I've read Sacred Hoops 4 times. The last time was after watching The Last Dance, the documentary about the Chicago Bulls in the 90s. And each time I read the book, something new dramatically reveals itself. Before then, I last read it in 2018. And it was really then that I decided I'm going to implement meditation into my life. So I've been practicing, and especially over the last year, I've been practicing every single day. Some good days, some bad days, some okay days. Because I figured, Phil Jackson won 11 titles implementing, this thing. Who am I to not try it, right? And I gotta say, it works. Oh my goodness. Something like this where the results aren't tangible right away, it can be frustrating because you're spending time on this thing that you don't know if it's actually going to work, right? But then, probably about eight months to a year, all of a sudden, I started just seeing things, or the word awareness. Playing video games growing up, if you create a player, you have X amount of points that you can use. And awareness was one of the skills that you could have on there, but you wouldn't waste your points on that. What did that do, right? Awareness is something you don't really value or you don't really know about until you really know it. And awareness is one of the most important skills you can have as a human being and an individual. And a lot of that comes through meditation, just relaxing, and you get to see the world differently. Oh my gosh, it works. Something that did stick out to me the last time I read Sacred Hoops was how often Phil brought up this book called Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. Over and over, he brings it up in the book. And The way I read books now, I don't just have a list and then go through them one by one. I'll be reading a book and something interesting will stick out to me. And then I'll like go off and research it. And then usually what happens is I borrow it from the library or I just buy it and then read it. So Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind is really like an introduction to Zen for Americans or Westerners. It was written in 1971, and the main gist of this book is meditation is about emptiness and practice, clarity. Just like, especially now in the 21st century, everything's going on in our minds. So much is on our mind, but you gotta, once you empty it out, you're able to make a lot more clear decisions. And the world just kind of comes to you. It's really interesting. And as someone who has been practicing meditation in my morning routines, I could understand what they were saying in this book. So that was kind of cool to read Sacred Hoops again and then read this, and it kind of confirms stuff that I've been experiencing, and it has worked in my own life. Something I really love about Phil Jackson is his understanding of leadership. Leadership is about understanding people's strengths and then putting them in position to succeed. He understands that everybody's different and everybody has something to offer. Most coaches, they just kind of have their strategy, and this is how I coach and this is how we're going to do things. But Phil's like, no, I want to get to know you as a person. I want to know where you're coming from and your perspective. And through that, I can figure out what your strengths are and then how to use those to reach our ultimate goal of winning an NBA championship. A great example of this is Dennis Rodman. So he understood that Dennis is a very special person, very special character, and he's especially great at getting rebounds. And for our team to win, we need him to rebound at a very high level. So that means we can't suffocate him. We have to let him be himself and to be free. That's another thing that Phil really understood, is that you have to allow people to be themselves to get the best out of them. So if, Dennis needs to go off to Vegas for 2 days, then, let's let him be him. And we got to understand that. And we have expectations that are different for each person. But we have to keep in mind our end goal of winning a championship. That's what leadership is about, is identifying that goal and then using everybody's strengths together to create that journey and achieve that goal. I believe sports are so valuable for society. Lessons can be learned on the court or the field that can be applied to life. Phil Jackson is just a great example and role model of how you can fuse your own personality, philosophy, and influences on something to reach a goal that doesn't seem connected at all. And through him, I've understood what awareness is and how you can employ it in your own life. You start to see things that other people don't see. It's incredible. It's beautiful.